market it. Jason, thanks for being on Flashpoint. Appreciate it.
Pleasure to be here.
Let me start by getting you to sort of characterize how important Tampa's trade relationship with Cuba was back in the day. What have we lost?
We've lost a cousin in trade and in society and culture and in a bond that we will be able to bring back, starting with commerce.
Yeah. It was our major international trading partner, and it actually made Tampa kind of a more international city, I imagine.
It truly was a very international city when we were working with Cuba. We had multiple layers of economy and sectors that are no longer very active, some for good, some for not. And when we get looking at what's best for the people of Tampa and what's best for the people of Cuba, politics aside, it's truly a winner.
Now, despite the fact that there's a trade embargo, there are some items that can be traded between the United States and Cuba. Agricultural products, food products. It's a fairly large market. It's not a big deal as a percentage of our GDP, but ironically, other parts of the United States and other parts of Florida are actually, do have shipping traffic going back and forth to Havana, but we don't.
That's correct.
Why is that?
Well, we don't have a ship that goes between Tampa and Havana right now.
It's that simple.
That's the argument.
Mm-hmm. Now, is there some resistance on the part of the Port Authority to not pursue trade relationships and perhaps have more traffic between the Port of Tampa and Havana? Are there political pressures that get in the way of that?
Well, it appears that there are some political pressures in the way that are really absent in most of the rest of this country, our country. The decisions by the Port Authority Board recently not to support Commissioner Lindell's decision or motion to go take the port board down and meet with their counterparts in Cuba is a great example of it. What happened is they kowtowed or sort of did a Washington two-step around all the good that the port is doing, and the port is doing many good things, and the fact that there's no boat service. But a great example of why they need to go visit is perhaps they could negotiate a transaction, a deal with their customers in Cuba to solve that problem.
Right. You have to acknowledge, though, there's a substantial number of people in Florida, Cuban Americans for the most part, that feel that the embargo is a good idea, that any trade or travel to Cuba just puts money in the pockets of a dictator. How do you respond to that?
Well, the facts are, according to the most recent poll 2 weeks ago in Miami, something like 61%, well over 50% want some change.
Sure.
That's Miami Cubans.
Right.
And by the way, Florida Hispanics are now majority non-Cuban.
Right. But Florida's electoral votes, make it an important primary state in presidential politics. It's always sort of gotten in the way of any change with respect to that policy. But what did I read about this week, Jason, about a trip involving maybe a city council member and a member of the Port Authority going to Cuba?
I know Councilwoman Mulhern has been pretty active on doing everything possible and legal to rebuild this trade. Councilwoman Linda Salcina has been quite active on the issue as well. And I think that Mulhern is planning to go down there.
Right. So again, there's a little hesitancy on the Port Authority's part, with the exception of Carl Lindell, who actively wanted a delegation to go there and talk to their counterparts in Havana to try to see if we could get some trade going back and forth.
Right. To the credit of the board, my sense was what they were trying to do was deflect the decision to put it onto the Greater Tampa Chamber of Commerce, which also recently, two big things that happened in the city last week where they agreed that it's a great idea to start looking at Cuba, and then the city council passed a resolution supporting, a unanimous resolution supporting the Chamber's efforts to go down to Cuba.
Okay, local government can only do so much. Of course, the federal government imposes the embargo. Barack Obama has eased or plans to ease the travel restrictions for Cuban Americans. Do you expect him to go further down that road by easing travel restrictions for all Americans and perhaps lifting or easing the trade embargo as well?
Well, I do. I think it's a political action, and I think what your viewers can do to help do this, if they do support ending the travel ban for non-Cubans, is to notify their local Congress leaders that they want to change. There's a House bill right now that has 125 congressional signatories, and our local congressional delegation has not signed it.
All right. Jason Busto, thanks very much for joining us on Flashpoint. Good to have you on the show. Okay, well, that's another Flashpoint for this Sunday. Happy Mother's Day to you. We'll see you next week.